However, the new missile guidance avionics came at the expense of the M61A1 Vulcan cannon, which was removed to make room. The CB variant was equipped with a FIR/NASAR 21GH radar and a radar altimeter for low-level strike missions, retaining the cannon as its only air-to-air weapon. As part of the Aggiornamento Sistema di Arma, ASA, or weapons system upgrade in the mid-1980s, both variants were given an ALQ-70/72 ECM and a FIR/NASAR 21G/M1 radar with frequency hopping and look-down/shoot-down capability. The new radar and guidance systems enabled the aircraft to carry the new AIM-9L Sidewinder infrared guided missile, replacing the older AIM-9B, as well as the AIM-7 Sparrow and the Selenia Aspide radar guided missiles. Ejection seat, edit. Early starfighters used a downward-firing ejection seat, the Stanley C-1, out of concern over the ability of an upward-firing seat to clear the T-tail empennage. This presented obvious problems in low-altitude escapes, and 21 USAF pilots, including test pilot Captain Ivan Carl Kinchelow Jr., failed to escape from their stricken aircraft in low-level emergencies because of it. The downward-firing seat was replaced by the Lockheed C-2 upward-firing seat, which was capable of clearing the tail, but still had a minimum speed limitation of 90 kn, 104 miles per hour, 167 kilometers per hour. Many export starfighters were later retrofitted with Martin Baker Mk.700, 0 altitude and 0 airspeed, ejection seats. Production assembly, edit. The Starfighter was designed for production rates of up to 20 airplanes per day from a single assembly line. The entire aircraft was designed for modular assembly and disassembly. The two principal fuselage sections were split along the vertical centerline and completely assembled in two separate halves. All equipment, including wiring and plumbing, was installed inside the two halves before being joined. The wings were then attached with 10 bolts plus a fairing. Operational history, edit. U.S. Air Force, edit. Although the F-104 was designed as an air superiority fighter, the United States Air Force's immediate need at the time was for a supersonic interceptor. In the late 1950s, the United States government believed it had dangerously fewer jet-powered bombers than the Soviet Union. In response, the USAF had ordered two interceptors from Convair, the F-102 Delta Dagger and the F-106 Delta Dart, but both aircraft were experiencing long development delays. The Starfighter's speed and rate of climb performance intrigued the Air Force, who pressed the F-104 into service as an interim interceptor with the Air Defense Command, ADC, even though its range and armament were not well suited for the role. On the 26th of February, 1958, the first unit to become operational with the F-104 was the 83rd Fighter Interceptor Squadron, FIS, at Hamilton AFB, California. The newly operational aircraft experienced problems with both the J-79 engine and M61 cannon, and after 3 months of service, the unit was grounded following a series of engine-related accidents. The aircraft were then fitted with the J-79 GE-3B engine and another 3 ADC units were equipped with the F-104. During this time, the Air Force's interest in the Starfighter was waning due to a shift in strategy toward fighters with longer ranges and heavier ordnance loads. As a result, the USAF reduced their orders of the F-104 from 722 to 170, and the F-104 and F-104B aircraft of the 83rd, 56th and 337th FIS were handed over to the 151st. 157th and 197th FIS of the Air National Guard, ANG, after less than a year of service with the ADC. Taiwan Strait Crisis of 1958, edit. Main article, Second Taiwan Strait Crisis. An F-104G target tug of the Republic of China Air Force, RCAF, taking off from Qingshoukang AB, Taichung, Taiwan, in 1969, with a dart tow target slung under its wing. In August 1958, only a few months after establishing operational readiness with the F-104, the 83rd FIS was assigned to an air defense and deterrence mission in Taiwan after the People's Republic of China began an intense artillery campaign against the Republic of China, ROC, on the disputed islands of Quemoy and Matsu. Tension between the two forces was high. Artillery duels were ongoing since the first crisis in 1954, and the People's Liberation Army Air Force, PLAF, had recently relocated 200 MiG-15s and MiG-17s to airfields on the mainland to fight against the Republic of China Air Force, RCAF. According to Colonel Howard Scrappy Johnson, one of the F-104 pilots deployed to Taiwan, the Starfighter's presence was so the PLAF would track them on their radar screens, and sit back and scratch their head in awe. On the 10th of September, the first F-104S arrived in Taiwan, delivered disassembled by C-124 Globemaster II transport aircraft. This was the first time that air transport was used to move fighter aircraft long distances. Within 30 hours of arriving, First Lieutenant Crosley J. Fitton had the first of the 83 Rhodes airplanes in the air, and by the 19th of September the entire unit was ready for day or night alert status. The F-104 flew a number of supersonic runs between Taiwan and mainland China at speeds up to Mach 2 as an air superiority demonstration, and though there were no direct enemy engagements prior to withdrawal after a ceasefire was agreed on the 6th of October, the Starfighter provided a significant deterrent effect. USAF Gen. Lawrence Cuter, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Air Forces, reported that the F-104 had made a tremendous impression on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Berlin Crisis of 1961, edit. Main article, Berlin Crisis of 1961. A USAF F-104 of the 151st FIS at Ramstein Air Base, West Germany, in 1961-1962. During the Berlin Crisis of 1961, President John F. Kennedy ordered 148,000 United States National Guard and Reserve personnel to active duty on the 30th of August, in response to Soviet moves to cut off Allied access to Berlin. 21,067 people were from the ANG, forming 18 fighter squadrons, 4 reconnaissance squadrons, 6 transport squadrons, and a tactical control group. On the 1st of November 1961, the USAF mobilized 3 more ANG fighter interceptor squadrons. In late October and early November, 8 of the tactical fighter units flew to Europe with their 216 aircraft in Operation Stair-Step. Because of their short range, 60 F-104s were airlifted to Europe in late November, among them the 151st FIS and 157th FIS. As with the Taiwan crisis 3 years earlier, the Starfighter did not directly engage any enemy fighters, but its presence provided a powerful air superiority deterrent. It demonstrated very quick reaction times and exemplary acceleration during practice intercepts, and proved superior to all other fighters in the theater. The crisis ended in the summer of 1962 and the ANG personnel returned to the United States, but the F-104's solid performance helped convince the ADC to recall some F-104s to active USAF service the following year. Vietnam War, edit. The F-104C entered service with USAF Tactical Air Command, TAC, as a multi-role fighter and fighter bomber. The 479th Tactical Fighter Wing, TFW, at George AFB, California, was the first unit to be equipped with the type, in September 1958. Commencing with Operation Rolling Thunder, the Starfighter was used both in the air superiority and air support roles. On the 19th of April, 1965, the 476th Tactical Fighter Squadron, TFS, of the 479th TFW arrived at the Nang AB to help protect US F-105 Thunderchief fighter bombers against MiG-17S and especially MiG-21S that were beginning to be flown by the Vietnamese People's Air Force, VPAF. The F-104 was also deployed extensively as a barrier combat air patrol, BARCAP, protector for the EC-121D Warning Star airborne early warning aircraft patrolling off the North Vietnamese coast. The F-104s were successful in deterring MiG interceptors and performed well as close support aircraft, though they were largely uninvolved in aerial combat and recorded no air-to-air kills during the conflict. The North Vietnamese were well aware of the F-104's performance, and the 479th TFW's pilots felt that the MiGs deliberately avoided engaging them. 25 MiG kills were scored by fighters controlled by EC-121 Big Eye missions, and their Starfighter escorts played a vital role in ensuring their safety. From the first F-104 deployment in April 1965 to December, Starfighters flew a total of 2,937 combat sorties. These sorties resulted in the loss of 5 aircraft, 1 from the 476th TFS, which deployed from April to July 1965, and 4 from the 436th Tactical Fighter Squadron, which deployed from July to October 1965. One incident on the 20th of September claimed 3 F-104s when Captain Philip E. Smith strayed into Chinese airspace and was shot down by a Chinese Shenyang J-6. 2 more collided in midair while searching for Smith's missing jet. No losses were reported from the 435th Tactical Fighter Squadron's first deployment from October to December 1965. Starfighters returned to Vietnam when the 435th Tactical Fighter Squadron redeployed from June 1966 until August 1967. During this time F-104s flew a further 2,269 combat sorties, for a total of 5,206. F-104s operating in Vietnam were upgraded in service with an /April 25/26 radar warning receiver equipment. One is on display in the Air Zoo in Kalamazoo, Michigan. During the second deployment, an additional 9 aircraft were lost for a total of 14 F-104s lost to all causes in Vietnam. In July 1967, the Starfighter units switched to the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. In 1967, these TAC aircraft were transferred to the Air National Guard. USAF F-104 Starfighters losses during the Vietnam War 1965-1967. Date model unit cause of loss / remarks. The 29th of June, 1965 F-104C 476th TFS shot down by enemy ground fire while providing close air support, CAS. The 22nd of July, 1965 F-104C 436th TFS downed by ground fire while on a CAS mission. The 20th of September, 1965 F-104C 436th TFS downed by planned Shenyang J-6. Chinese-built MiG-19, cannon fire while on a MiG-cap mission. The 20th of September, 1965 F-104C. F-104C 436th TFS mid-air collision while conducting air search for earlier planned downed F-104C. The 1st of August, 1966 F-104C 435th TFS downed by Satu surface-to-air missile, SAM, while on Operation Iron Hand escort mission. The 1st of August, 1966 F-104C 435th TFS downed by Satu SAM while on Iron Hand escort mission. The 1st of September, 1966 F-104C 435th TFS downed by anti-aircraft artillery fire, AAA, while on armed reconnaissance mission. The 2nd of October, 1966 F-104C 435th TFS downed by Satu SAM at 10,000 feet while on armed reconnaissance mission. The 20th of October, 1966 F-104C 435th TFS downed by ground fire during armed reconnaissance mission. The 12th of January, 1967 F-104C 435th TFS operational loss, crashed while landing after a cap mission. The 16th of January, 1967 F-104C 435th TFS operational loss, engine failure during a cap mission. The 28th of January, 1967 F-104C 435th TFS operational loss, engine failure during a cap mission. The 14th of May, 1967 F-104C 435th TFS operational loss, engine failure during armed reconnaissance mission. North American Service, edit. By the late 1950s, USAF fighter doctrine had shifted away from air superiority, fighter against fighter combat, and placed more importance on the interceptor, fighter against bomber combat, and tactical fighter bomber roles. The F-104 was deemed inadequate for either, lacking both payload capability and endurance in comparison with other USAF aircraft. As a result, the USAF procured only 296 Starfighters, including both single-seat and two-seat versions. During Operation Power Pack, USAF F-104s were deployed to Ramey Air Force Base to protect the American supply line against potential Soviet-supplied Cuban MiGs. 12 F-104s were sent to Puerto Rico, where they remained until the 3rd of June, 1965. The F-104s service with the USAF was quickly wound down after the aircraft's second deployment to Southeast Asia in 1967. Although the remaining F-104s in regular USAF service had been recently fitted with more powerful and reliable J-79 GE-19 engines, the last USAF Starfighters left regular Air Force service in 1969. The aircraft continued in use with the Puerto Rico Air National Guard until 1975 when it was replaced by the A-7 Corsair II. The last use of the F-104 Starfighter in U.S. markings was training pilots for the West German Air Force, with a wing of TF-104GS and F-104GS based at Luke Air Force Base, Arizona. Although operated in USAF markings, these aircraft, which included German-built aircraft, were owned by West Germany. They continued in use until 1983. Pakistan Air Force, edit. In 1961, Pakistan, as a major non-NATO ally, received under the Mutual Assistance Program 14 Starfighters, 12 Model F-104 and 2 dual-seat Model F-104B. These were fitted with C2 upward-firing ejection seats, and /ASG-14T1 fire control systems. More powerful General Electric J79-11A engines and the M61 Vulcans were also refitted on PAF's request. Moreover, an F-104B was modified by the PAF to carry Swedish TAR-7M reconnaissance cameras in the back seat. Other than that, a single F-104 was modified to carry radar homing devices like the radar locator, RLR, and short-range low-altitude radar detection, SLAD. The No. 9 Squadron Griffins was the only PAF squadron to be equipped with these starfighters. The PAF also provided F-104 instructors to Jordan in order to train their pilots on the aircraft after the Royal Jordanian Air Force started receiving its starfighters in 1968. One of the Jordanian pilots, Major Ihsan Shurdam, later rose to command the Ajaf. The Starfighter served with the PAF from 1961 until 1972, when lack of spare parts due to post-war U.S. sanctions led to an early retirement. Ran of Kutch conflict, edit. Main article, Operation Desert Hawk. During the Ran of Kutch crisis in April 1965, a detachment of 2 Griffin F-104s was deployed at Moraipa Base under the command of Squadron Leader Middlecote. An F-104 flown by Farooq Umar also assisted the Army's 24th Cavalry, 15th Frontier Force and 15th Punjab regiments in capturing Bayabet from Indian forces. Later in June, PAF F-104s forced an Indian Dassault Auragan which had intruded into Pakistani airspace to make a forced landing at Jangsha High village near Badin. Indo-Pakistani War of 1965, edit. See also, Indo-Pakistani Air War of 1965. PAF F-104s were deployed in a variety of roles during the 1965 war. These included air defense, high-altitude interceptions, night fighter, reconnaissance, etc. In the opening rounds of the war on the 1st of September, Flight Lieutenant Farooq Umar, on the orders of PAF C Air Marshal Nur Khan, executed 2 sonic booms in his F-104 over the enemy airbase at Amritsar. This was done in order to harass the Indian Air Force, IAF, as a sign of dominance. On the 3rd of September 1965, 2 Griffin F-104s flown by Flying Officer Abbas Mirza and Flight Lieutenant Hakimullah intercepted 6 IAF Folland Nats over Aigna which had attacked a lone F-86 Sabre. While the Sabre managed to return to base despite sustaining heavy damage, the starfighters made supersonic passes near the Indian Nats which resultantly spread panic amongst the IAF pilots. In the ensuing chaos, Squadron LDR Bridge Pal Singh Sikant landed his Nat F.1 at an abandoned Pakistani airstrip at Pusra. The F-104's first air-to-air combat victory was achieved by the PAF on the morning of the 6th of September 1965. When a pair of Griffin F-104s flown by Flight Lieutenant Aftab Alam Khan and Flight Lieutenant Amjad Hussain Khan were vectored towards 4 Indian Dassault Mist Force that were attacking a passenger train at Gakhar station. While Flight Lieutenant Amjad aborted due to radio failure, Flight Lieutenant Aftab went ahead with the interception and shot down a Mist 4 with an AIM-9B while damaging another with his M61 Vulcan. The kill with an AIM-9B Sidewinder is claimed by the PAF as the first combat kill by any Mach 2 aircraft and the PAF's first missile kill, though the IAF denies the loss. On the 7th of September 1965, a Griffin F-104 flown by Flight Lieutenant Amjad Hussain Khan intercepted 6 Indian Dassault Mists which were attacking the Sargodha airbase. While 5 of the Indian Mists managed to escape, a fierce dogfight ensued between Flight Lieutenant Amjad's F-104 and Squadron LDR Devaya's Mist. Amjad fired an AIM-9B but it missed and hit the ground, so he switched to his M61 cannon and after some attempts, managed to score several hits on Devaya's missed. However, due to high G maneuvering, Amjad's F-104 was forced into a low-speed dogfight by a determined Devaya, something which the F-104 performs badly in due to its poor low-speed maneuverability and agility. This forced Amjad to ram his F-104 into the mist. The mid-air collision resulted in both pilots losing control of their warplanes. While Flight Lieutenant Amjad managed to eject safely over Kotnaka, the Indian pilot perished with his missed. On the 13th of September, 1965, Middlecote fired an AIM-9 at an IAF Canberra bomber during a night interception. An explosion was reported at around 4,000 feet but confirmation was not possible. On the 21st of September, 1965, Squadron Leader Jamal, while flying a Griffin F-104, intercepted a high-flying IAF English Electric Canberra at night and shot it down with an AIM-9 near Fazilka over Pakistani airspace. In total, Griffin F-104s flew 246 hours and 45 minutes during the 1965 war, 204 day sorties and 42 night missions. Indo-Pakistani War of 1971, edit. The commencement of hostilities in 1971 led to PAF deploying its small fleet of F-104s heavily in air-to-air and ground attack roles. Surplus F-104s and F-104Bs were also received from Jordan. Ground attack. In early December 1971, PAF launched Operation Chengiz Khan, inspired from Israel's Operation Focus, after a series of invasions by Indian forces in East Pakistan. As part of these preemptive strikes, the Starfighters were employed particularly in attacks on various Indian radar stations. On the 3rd of December 1971, a formation of 2 Starfighters attacked the IAF radar station at Amritsar. On the 4th of December 1971, Squadron leaders Amanullah and Rashid Bhatti flying F-104s again struck the IAF's Amritsar radar without any significant results due to heavy anti-aircraft fire. On the 11th of December, 2 F-104s piloted by Wing Commander Arif Iqbal Squadron leader M. Amanullah struck the Indian airbase of Atalai, during which Squadron LDR Amanullah destroyed an HF-24 parked on the tarmac with his M61 cannon, while Flight Lieutenant Arif Iqbal strafed another HF-24 which was trying to take off from the airbase. Air-to-air combat. On the 4th of December 1971, a Folland Nat and Sukhoi Su-7 were shot down after they confronted a formation of 2 PAF starfighters attacking the Amritsar radar. On the 8th of December, an F-104 piloted by Flight Lieutenant Manzoor Bokhari intercepted a Canberra bomber and shot it down. On the 10th of December, an F-104 flown by Wing Commander Arif Iqbal shot down an Indian Navy brig A-1050 allies while attacking the Oka port. On the morning of the 12th of December, the first direct air-to-air combat engagement between an F-104 and a MiG-21 took place when OC No. 9 Squadron, Middlecote along with his wingman Tariq Habib, while performing airstrikes on the IAF's Jamnagar airbase, were bounced by 2 Indian MiG-21 FLs of the No. 47 Squadron. While the F-104 formation was returning to Pakistani territory, one of the MiG-21s fired a K-13 missile at Mervin's F-104. Though he managed to dodge it with evasive maneuvers, a second missile was fired at a range of 300 meters, this time hitting his starfighter. Middlecote was seen ejecting over the Gulf of Kutch, however the Indian vessels dispatched to capture him claimed he was never found. The PAF initially declared him MIA but was later declared Kia and posthumously awarded a bar to Sitara-e-Jarat. The second F-104 loss occurred several days later on the 17th of December when a pair of Jordanian lone starfighters on combat air patrol near Hyderabad intercepted two MiG-21s which had intruded Pakistani airspace. The wingman, Flight Lieutenant Samad Ali Changzi, engaged one of the MiG-21s and managed to get behind its tail. Unknown to him, the second MiG-21 had sneaked up behind him and had fired a K-13 missile which had missed. His leader tried warning him but to no avail. As Changzi was about to shoot the MiG-21 down, a second K-13